I'm Mitch from Hard Intentions YouTube channel. We also have hardintentions.com where we have t-shirts and hats and other stuff. So, well, today's the first for me because we have a guy on the channel that is from the other side of the fence from when I was in prison that I did not know in prison. And as I just told him, the other prison guard I interviewed, John Silva, I did know in prison, and I also met on the street. So I'd like to introduce yourself.
Yeah, how's it going, man? Thank you for having me. Hector Bravo. I resigned a couple months ago from Department of Corrections, California.
All right. So your name's Hector. So just like briefly, maybe where'd you grow up?
I grew up in the Imperial Valley, Southern California. You got Brawley, El Centro, Calexico, like on the border of Mexico, right there, Mexicali.
What town did you grow up in out there? Just curious. It's like
Brawley. Brawley's my hometown.
Yeah. That's out in the middle of nowhere.
Yup, desert.
Wow. Yeah, I grew up in San Diego. Like I grew up in East County, so yes, I'm familiar with some of them areas. Yeah.
With Glamis.
Yeah, Glamis. Yeah, I have a friend who used to race trucks out there, all that shit, dirt biking.
Yeah.
Desert. Yeah. So growing up out there, man, there's not a lot out there.
A lot of you get in trouble out there, man. Drinking, fighting,
Yeah. So a lot of farms out there.
Yeah, agriculture.
So did you grow up around a lot of farm workers?
Well, my dad in the past was worked in the fields to make ends meet, but I kind of grew up in the lower, not rich, that's for sure.
Yeah. So out there, growing up, you go to school, you finish school, you have like a normal upbringing, or?
Nah, man. Well, like I said, that place is so small. If you don't leave it, you're gonna get trapped. You're gonna get in trouble. Like a lot of drugs, a lot of drinking.
Right.
So it was in high school. The recruiter from the military showed up for career day, and I was hooked, man. I was hooked. And a month after I graduated high school, I left for the Army.
So you never got into the nefarious activities, drinking, drugging, all that shit, fighting, or?
I absolutely did. I 100% did when I came back from Iraq, when I came back from the military.
All right. So growing up, though, you didn't really
No, I did, man. I gave my parents a run for their money. I started drinking alcohol at 15 and, partying, staying out late, drinking, and then they gave me the option. You can stay in our house and follow our rules, or you get the hell out and go live with your friends. And I bounced. I left.
Oh, wow. So you finished high school?
Barely, by the skin of my teeth, yeah.
Yeah. And then so you how old were you when you met the recruiters?
Oh, man. Probably I enlisted at the age of 17. 17, so my parents had to sign the permission slip, the waiver.
So you in the Army?
Army, man. Yeah.
All right. And so where'd you did basic training?
Did basic training in Fort Benning, Georgia, infantry. Right after that, I shipped out to Germany. It was freezing. It was in December 2002.
So you did.
So the Twin Towers had already fallen in 2001. So we were.
Yeah, that's right after the attack of the Twin Towers.
Yeah, I knew I was going to war. Everybody knew they were going to war. It was that time.
Yeah. All right. So what was basic training like for you?
It was different. First time being away from home, outside of the state, the county. Meeting people from like Kentucky, Pennsylvania, New York, Texas.
Yeah.
As far as physically challenging, they kind of build you to it, man. So eventually you do 1,000 push-ups, you're gonna build that muscle mass.
Yeah. So you go through basic training. Did they I've seen videos from like Vietnam. They're like, they're telling what are we gonna do? Kill. Who are we gonna get? Goops. Do they kind of feel that in you? Like,
yeah, that was a weird thing, man. Because even though I did join the infantry, and it's kind of one of those things. You're young and you only seen the movies. At that time it was like Black Hawk Down. We Were Soldiers, and in my head, that's what I thought I wanted. And then you get there, and yeah, you're right. You're a killer. What makes the green grass grow? Blood, blood, blood. You know. And then initially hearing that, I'm like, wait a minute. But I had to kind of trick my mind into just go all the way. Just go with it. And it worked.
So did you kind of realize, hey, they're training us for war?
I was too young to realize the process, but it kind of seemed that way. Yeah. That's exactly what they're doing.
So you signed up for infantry. I mean, like, if you go to military, I mean, I think, can you like sign up for like I want to be a diesel mechanic, or I want to be a air? Did you just sign up to be in the infantry? Just
infantry, man. I wanted to be a grunt. I wanted to be on the front lines. And the way I looked at it was like, I don't want a job that I can do out on the streets, meaning like I don't want to be like a mail clerk in the army, or like a finance accountant. I want to be a grunt.
Yeah. All right. So you went over to Germany. How long were you there?
It was I did 2 years in Germany and then 13 months in Iraq. So it kind of played out perfect. If you could have a perfect military contract, that would be it.
Yeah. So you went to Iraq in 2000. That would be around
2004.
Yeah. And where were you stationed at?
I was in Balad, Iraq. So you got Baghdad right here in the middle. I was 50 miles north of Baghdad. And and they had already caught Saddam Hussein in 2003. So we thought our war was over. You know, me and my best man, all the friends in the building, in the barracks, we thought the war was over.
Yeah.
You know, and then little did we know that was going to be the beginning of the insurgency, the guerrilla warfare.
Yeah, that's when they had people fighting for control of the country.
Roadside bombs were very new. Car bombs were new and devastating.
Suicide bombers.
Yeah, man, that was it.
And so, you know, I remember when I was in CMF last time, we had two of the guards there. They were reservists, and they disappeared. And they came back, and I'm like, so where were you? Where'd you go? He goes, oh, I was over, and one of them went to Afghanistan. The other one went to Iraq.
Yeah.
You know, both of them guys were pretty cool with us. I mean, with me, you know, I worked around one of them in the kitchen, and he was just quiet, did his job, respectful. How you doing? You know, and I talked to him, and he was like, he told me some of the stuff, you know, they did over there. And you seen some heavy combat over there?
Yeah, man, 13 months.
Yeah.
Some that you know, you asked me earlier if I came back and did that nefarious activity. Well, yeah, man, I was suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, and I didn't know it.
Yeah.
Self-medicating, but yeah, everything, you know, war was extremely gray. War was all gray. There was not black and white, you know, and I was not anticipating that as a young adult.
Right. Nothing's cut and dried. It's
No, you know, like for instance, on May 12th, 2004, you know, driving the Humvee down the road, my Humvee got hit by a roadside bomb, right? It blew up. Like I lost my hearing in one of my ears, and we end up returning fire. That was a procedure back then. You open up fire 360 degrees, and I didn't end up shooting this guy. One of my friends ended up shooting this guy, and you know, he falls out, but he brought his kids with him. He brought his kids with him to blow me up, to blow us up. So we ended up killing that dude in front of his kids, and they were probably like 6 years old, 8 years old, and that was like I never would have expected that. Watching that, they would watch their dad die, and it was not cool.
Yeah, but you know, he brought him there. That's not
right. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. It was
guys that I mentioned, you know, I worked in the kitchen with me. I go, hey man, so you know, we were in the course of conversation, you know. I mean, you know, he's a prison guard, you know. But I go, so you know, when you're over there, you kill people. He goes, yeah, I kill people. I said, did you kill any women? He goes, yeah, I killed some women. You think you killed some kids? He goes, I probably killed some kids. But you know, really, you know, I said, well, we had conversation, about, man, it's about staying alive, and it's, he's not the one that put them in harm's way, and so, but it really kind of the guards that were combat veterans in prison were always the ones, to me, not just them, but they were always pretty respectful, pretty straight up, didn't fuck with us, didn't harass us, didn't go out of their way to make our life miserable. And so it really kind of it didn't surprise me, but it was pretty cool that he would have a conversation with me about his experience, over there. Yeah. Well, hats off to you, man, for your service to the country, and
Thank you.
For whatever reason you went there and you did what you had to do, and you survived,
Yeah.
So when did you come back from the military?
2005, July 2005.
So you just discharged, you didn't even think about re-upping, or?
No, that was never the goal, man. The goal was to do my 3 year contract and then come out and be a correctional officer. My dad was a correctional officer, so
Oh, really?
I wanted to follow that footstep.
Where did he work?
He worked at Centinela 93. He started in 1993.
Oh, wow. That's right when they first opened it.
Yeah.
Because I was in Donovan when they opened Centinela.
Yeah. That was the first prison I touched down at, too.
All right. So that's where he started his career, at Centinela?
Centinela, man. Let me see, 93. I was 9 years old. I remember when he got his manila envelope in the mail. And I remember I was crying because I knew he was going to go away for like an academy of some sort, or just for a long period of time.
Yeah. So your goal was to follow Dad's footsteps.
In a way, yeah. The goal was correctional counselor. Those counselors in there. But once I started the job, I'm like, I don't want to sit behind a desk.
Yeah. So did you hear any stories about prison from your dad, or no?
No. But back then, man, like the History Channel, the National Geographic Channel, they had those really good documentaries.
Yeah. So when you came back, how long did it take you before you decided to pursue your job in the prison system?
Well, there was a 2 year freeze. It seemed like at that time, periodically, the department would go through hiring freezes.
Mm-hmm.
And I hit a 2 year freeze. So I came back with $20,000 saved up in my bank account from Iraq because there was nowhere to spend it.
Yeah.
Collecting unemployment, and then I just partied my ass off for one whole entire year. I was drunk the whole year.
Yeah. And so part of that was dealing with your PTSD, your war experience.
Dealing with the demons. Yeah, man. I came back at 20 years old, so I was still a kid.
So do you think you were just like, yeah, I'm going to party, or were you actively trying to deal with the demons of war?
I kept telling myself, I'm hitting it this hard because I missed out on 1 year. I'm just trying to make up for the year, but that was not the truth.
Yeah.
That's what I was telling myself.
Yeah, all right. So you're basically alcoholic for a while.
I'm still am an alcoholic, man. I got 12 years of sobriety, so I just, going to meetings and doing my thing.
All right. Cool.
Yeah.
Congrats.
Thank you.
So, when you decided to finally get your shot to go to you went to the academy, or what's that?
Yeah, dude. I actually, it's kind of funny because part of my story, I went to jail for a week during that crazy period of time. We did a beer run. Me and my friends did a beer run, and it was like on a Friday. We stayed there the weekend. Like Monday, Tuesday was a holiday. So by the time they kicked us out, it was like a whole week. And as soon as I got out, I went to go take the test, the written examination for Department of Corrections. Yeah, man. And then the background investigator, I had to write it down, disclose what transpired. And he's like, hey, man, it says right here you were in jail a couple months ago. What's going on? I told him I came back from the military. I was running amok, and he's like, I'll give you a chance. Give me a chance.
Right. And so you go to Galt?
I went to Stockton. They were running 2 academies. I don't know if you remember that.
No, I don't. I just know they had an academy in Galt.
That's the original. They were still running the original academy, but then they opened up a females institution that was closed down, and we had to sleep in the cells. I slept in cell 236, and they were running an academy out of there simultaneously. Really? Yeah.
Right. All right. So how'd that go for you?
That was cool. That was cool, considering I just came back from Iraq, just came out of jail. Like at least I wasn't sleeping in the mud. So kind of like going to college, 8 to 4, weekends off.
So guys in prison, like we had this idea, this conception that when you guys go to the academy, they train you to be prison guards. But like when I went to prison, like when I was in San Quentin in the 1980s, early 80s, a lot of the prison guards were Vietnam veterans.
Oh man,
right? And a lot of them were like getting pension from the military. Prison guards made $18,000 a year back then.
Wow.
So they have a pension from the military, and then they get a paycheck from the prison. But things really changed. When they started building all the prisons, 3 Strikes, Pete Wilson, all that shit, prison boom. And then the old school guards were gone. So we started getting this idea in our heads that they were training you guys to hate us, basically.
It wasn't
not talk to us, just that we were pieces of shit and you guys were our Lord and Master, and that's kind of the idea that we had, that they were training the training, because we noticed a change in the prison guards.
Yeah, they definitely didn't teach us that. 2006 is when I went through. What they were harping on then was code of silence. Code of silence, meaning I think probably from the Green Wall gang scandal or whatever transpired.
Yeah.
They pretty much they were teaching us rat on your friends, rat on your friends, rat on your friends, rat on your friends, because if not, you're gonna get in trouble. Oh, 100%, absolutely. Wow. Code of silence. They called it code of silence. As far as the inmate population, they weren't even pushing like, oh, that it can be dangerous. I mean, they probably skimmed over the top of like, oh yeah, be advised where you're working at. But it was mostly learning policy and procedure, very basic policy and procedure.
So there was no like, fuck the inmates kind of mentality in the.
Nah, because the instructors, man, looking back now, even the instructors now, they got the hash marks, the French fries. They got 1 or they got 2, meaning they probably got 3 years max in the department. So they don't even know anything.
Was there an instructor there named Allen?
Not sure. No, not that I can recall.
I knew a prison guard from Vacaville. He ended up being an instructor there. He was dude.
If anything, it was quite opposite. They would tell you to be respectful to the inmates, as in like communication skills. Now it's gone so far to the other side, where these new officers hitting the line are literally getting beat up by inmates and trying to talk their way out of the situation as they're getting punched around. So it went this far. Yeah.
Well, that's crazy because, respect was always a thing back in the day.
Yeah.
But, they had guards back then that would fight with you. They'd take you in the stairwell and fight you in Tracy or, whatever. I mean, they would get them up,
Yeah.
Or they would just, even the ones that would respect you, they wouldn't put up with no shit. I remember in Tracy, this Filipino dude and this female cop and this dude, they ran in a cell on somebody and they got the shit beat out of them. They knocked her out, and then they were beating the other cop, and she came to and ran back in the cell, and so I'm not, yeah. But the same cops, they'd respect you, but they wouldn't put up with no shit. So.
Yeah, I think that might have been a generational thing from when you saw like the old school guard to just new generation, right? Age-wise, maybe.
Yeah. So, when you graduated academy, what was your first prison you went to?
Centinela, man. I touched down on March, kind of like around this time frame of 2007.
All right, 2007. So, all right. So last I heard it, I don't know, they had one level 4 yard there, and then level 3s.
When I hit that prison, all yards were level 3 GP, and then they had flipped it Charlie yard to level 4. So that yard, Charlie yard, they would go from level 3 to level 4.
Right, back and forth. Yeah.
While I was there, it flipped to level 4, and that was my partners told me, get ready. It's a different.
That level 4 right there in level 4 world, that was pretty mellow actually.
Yeah.
Level 4, it was pretty easy. I mean, I know some guys that went there got stabbed, but
there was a lot of stabbings. Yeah.
So, what was your first? So you know, when you get there, where did they assign you?
My first assignment was in Charlie Gym. Charlie Gym was a whole dorm full of Mexicans, Hispanics, Southsiders, and Paisas because they kept going off on every race. So that was the only thing left in there. Probably like 100 of them in there.
They're living in a gym. Were they level 2s?
No, they were actually level 3s, man. Like level 3s in the gym.
So they had nothing but Hispanics in there?
Yeah, because and then on one of the gyms, like Alpha Yard, they had nothing but like blacks in there. So it was kind of.
Oh, I never seen that before.
At that time frame, yeah, because they kept going off on each other.
During that time, I'd left Lancaster like 2003, but the Southsiders were always jumping on the whites in Lancaster. We were Lancaster prison, the white population was very low. And so they would, I've seen a couple riots here with Southsiders. And they got kind of pissed off that Pisces didn't jump in it with them. So that was in Centinela too then, right?
Oh, for sure.
So they put you in the gym with these guys. So you're a Mexican descent?
I am, yeah. I'm a Mexican.
They get a whole gym full of Mexican descent inmates. So did they put you to the test?
Well, they put me through the regular test of being a newbie, right? Like a new, being green, being a cherry, being a fish. Yeah. I had not developed communication skills yet, that, right? Like I have now. Yeah, I was a war veteran, but that didn't really, communication wise, it didn't.
I know most of the, like with Southsiders, Northerners, they usually don't engage staff on a negative, because they have a bigger fish to fry and with their daily program, they don't usually fuck with staff. I mean, they usually don't harass staff as much as other races,
Well, that gym was level 3, and then when the buildings ended up going level 4.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, those level 4s tested me for sure. Like one of each race tested me.
Yeah. So the guys in the gym, they're level 3. Those guys are level 4. So basically, the gym guys they're kind of tasked with moving shit around the yard and
holding stuff. Yeah, holding the stuff. Yep.
So living in a gym would not be my favorite place to live, because if somebody wants to do some bad shit to you, you're wide open. Did you have any stabbings in the gym?
No stabbings. But one time I was chilling at the podium and I hear one of those steak cups go flying across the room. The big brown steak cups, and everybody froze and everybody was looking and we're like, man. The last row was called Crack Alley because we couldn't see back there. The catwalk the gunner didn't go all the way over there. And, they would do their tattooing back there, probably smoke. Well, yeah, they were smoking for sure.
Yeah.
And we get there, man. There's a dude face down in a puddle of blood. Like they cracked this dude with the cup.
Yeah, so they fucked him up.
Yeah, pretty good.
Wow. Yeah, guys living in a gym, they're all going home. There's probably no lifers in there.
Nah, no lifers in the gym, but I've been in a few riots in a gym. They would riot for sure. The gyms.
Yeah. Riots are nasty.
Yeah.
Find space, especially. So
Yeah.
How long did you work there? Did you end up going to a housing unit or yard or?
I worked there for 1 year. You're supposed to be on rotation or this and that, and I was actually there for 1 year, and then that's when after that I hit AdSeg, I hit the level 4 buildings, I hit the level 4 yard. You're new, so the OGs already put in their time. They're trying to stay away from that.
Yeah. And so
Um,
back then, all the prison gangs were still locked up.
correct.
And so, but you had guys, thinking they run in the yard, and then you had guys that they aspire to be all they can be, and uh, they want to carry out whatever they think they should be doing to be with the big homies and shit. So, Centinela, you see, once you get in there, you see stabbings, violence.
Um,
And
yeah.
so, did you get so when you're working a building, whatever, you get information, like people drop kites. Were people dropping kites to you? Like, hey, this guy's selling dope, or this guy's doing this or that, or
So back then, I'll never by any means claim to be like a OG or back in the day story, but back then they didn't really communicate with us, like unless they brought a shadow, somebody, an extra person to come and talk to you. But like, um, actually everybody was just handling their business. They weren't dropping kites. Like people were getting hit. Yeah, people were getting stabbed. For a while there, they were medevacing dudes like every day, life flighting them.
yeah,
But no, they were just handling their business.
because like a lot of guys, they're not really cut out for that shit, but they find themselves in prison on level 4 yard. They got a lot of time. They're just starting, and boom, they're in that mix. They don't, they got guys that don't want to be there.
Yeah, I was too green and naive at that time to know any of the prison politics.
So you're brand new. Oh, so this is prison.
Yeah,
Right.
so like I mean, dudes are getting hit, and I don't know why they're getting hit. I don't know who. Oh, but you have to remember too the C files. The big C files, the paper ones.
Right.
So in order for us to look at anybody's file, that's a lengthy process. You have to walk to the front or come in early before you start your shift and go to records and sign it out. And they got to find it. You got to flip through it. I did that one time for one inmate in the gym, in Charlie Gym, a Southsider, because he really, pissed me off and got under my skin. I don't know. I wanted to see what the dude was about.
Yeah.
I only did that once, but as when everything went onto the computers, you're so able to just at your fingertips look at everything.
Right. Right. So, you you see guys that are like on the yard, and we have little policies like if a guy's a sex offender, child molester, rapist, something like that, we got to get rid of them because that's what we do. And so, you ever experience like, oh, here's some guy in your building, he thinks he's a shot caller, he's a fucking tough guy, and then you look up his file and he's a fucking sex offender.
Well, I'm sure you can agree that the loudest guy in the room is usually the weakest.
Yeah.
And the quiet ones are the really ones you got to watch out for. And
so you did see that, like
that kept happening after numerous experiences of inmates yelling at me, check my C file, cuz, and I would like,
so really saying I'm a fucking weak motherfucker and a rapist. So
yeah,
keep an eye on me.
Oh, when they would say that, check my C file, and like I said, when I was young, yeah, I would go check just to see, is this guy really telling the truth? What's going on here? And one of the guys like knocked out an 83-year-old lady and stole her purse, and I'm like, wow.
Yeah, yeah, like I don't want to say any names or any specific incidences, but like I was in Donovan. There was a guy, giving these dudes weed, and he had a lot of money. He was buying dope, and he's giving all the youngsters dope. And I heard he was a sex offender, and So I had someone get on the computer and check, and we kind of hoodwinked a staff member to check his canteen, and it was on the computer, and there's a big fucking R in his jacket. So
Yeah.
he was a sex offender. So I mean, they got guys I think that are sex offenders and they don't want to be found out, so they put themselves out there like they're shot callers. So
there's another caveat to that, man, without trying to give up too much game or stuff like that. People that you wouldn't expect to have an R on their jacket, they got them back in the the back pages of their and either A, they're flying under the radar, or B, they were given a pass years and years ago, and it's kind of weird.
Yeah. So that is, yeah. I just, because everyone thinks, everybody, they sex offenders, they kill them, they stab them, they woo, but some of them dudes slide under the radar, and for whatever reason, and there are guys that think they're running the yard, and they'll give them dudes a pass because they got money. They extort them, basically.
Money,
dope, whatever. They extort them. My philosophy was, if they gotta go, they gotta go. I don't give a fuck how much money they got. Or
makes sense to me.
After
working on SNY yards, getting to Donovan, that was, you would have dropouts or dudes that got put in the hat for no reason over politics, right?
Yeah.
And these guys were still solid by the definition of solid. They didn't hang it up by choice. And they would get really, really upset and irate when they would find out that their Sally that they were smoking cigarettes with and showing their kids pictures, when they would discover he was a sex offender, they would go off on him.
Yeah. Well, I was in Soledad Central, and Soledad North's the level. It's a SNY yard, and so they would come over to Medical and Central, and they'd have cages. See that SNY guys, man, like they talk shit, and I just sit there and listen. I don't give a fuck. But one of the cops says, "Hey, man, them dudes put in more work than you guys." So they had 2 yards in North. One of the yards, they wouldn't allow any sex offenders, even though it was an SNY yard. If you're a sex offender, they'd stab you.
I almost got into a fight with one out at the hospital because I had a good gig, man. I had a good gig, hospital guard, where I would be assigned to the outside hospitals. I would show up there and with my little lunch bag and my little chair. And there was a sex offender dude. I didn't really know it at the time, and he was going to the restroom. He was going number 2. The door was kind of cracked. I kind of cracked the door just so I could keep an eye on him. I didn't want no dude escaping.
Yeah.
And this dude starts going off on me. Talking about that I'm violating his privacy, talking about that this and that he feels, what did he say? He feels violated. And we have the escape sheet. It has your commitment offense on there.
Right.
And it was like L&L under 14, lewd and lascivious acts under 14.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and it kind of got heated, right? And I'm like, there's no way this dude's gonna yell at me for violating his.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Like when it's a long story, but when you go out to Medical, they print out paperwork on you, so the transporting officer knows who you are, what you're about. It's got all your charges and shit on there.
Correct.
When I was in CMC West, I happened to come across some of that paperwork on somebody that went out to Medical, and level 2, it's hard to get anyone to kill somebody, but they beat this guy for about 20 minutes before staff seen it. So
right,
but you had that and more coming. But there's a lot more sex offenders in prison than people realize, I think.
It's awful, man. It's awful. I initially used to read the C file, and then I swear to God, I stopped, man. I could not do it anymore.
Yeah. So you went from Centinela to Donovan?
Yeah, I did 8 years at Centinela, and then I promoted a sergeant after that.
All right. And you went to Donovan?
I went to Donovan, man. I think that's where everything went bad.
So what year did you go to Donovan?
I touched down in January 1st, 2015.
All right, yeah. 2015, I was in CMC West looking to get the fuck out.
Yeah.
So now Donovan was already in SNY now, most of it?
Most of it was.
1 yard, which is now 8 yard, I think was still mainline or?
The weird thing about that, two different worlds, man. Sentinella and Donovan, two different worlds that when I touched down. Yeah, 8 yard was a level 3 GP. However, building 1 and building 2 were EOP buildings.
Right. It's been like that for a long time.
Yeah, it just didn't make sense to me. Like, they would have never allowed that anywhere else.
Well, they run a separate program. They get yard in the mornings, we get yard in the afternoon, so on and so forth,
Yeah.
Theoretically, you're not supposed to be around them. When they first started that, they were letting the EOPs go to yard in the main line, but they would take off on dudes.
Right.
And the nuts would jump on regular guys and, so they separated the yard. But so you get to Donovan, what's the major difference there?
Everything. At Sentinella, there's no mental health. Zero mental health.
Right.
You add that into the equation, and that's a psych ward. It is a legitimate psych ward.
Right.
And not even mentioning the dudes that are faking it, the dudes that are flying under the radar, hiding out.
Right.
And the respect level was out the window. I'm gonna keep it real on both sides, man. I was hearing some officers yell at some inmates, and I'm like, oh, hey, like I'm expecting it to crack off and everybody to jump us. Yeah. But no, it was like that was like the get down there. Everybody just disrespecting each other.
Now you're a sergeant, right?
Yeah, sergeant.
So where were you working at?
I landed on Charlie Yard, level 4, SNY EOP, and hit the ground running. And then another sergeant would eventually bid me out of that spot, so I got moved out shortly afterwards. And then I just bounced around that prison, man. Ended up on Delta Yard, level 3 SNY.
Yeah, that used to be a reception yard when I was there.
Yeah, and then, dude, within my first month of being on that yard, a white inmate, tied a weapon to his hand and stabbed one of my officers in housing unit 17, building 17.
Wow.
And that was an eye-opener.
So you had a SNY guy stabbing a correctional officer.
Yeah, he was also like a level 4 override. He just kicked him off Charlie Yard on good behavior and put him on Delta. And
did you find out the reason why he did that?
He was spun out on meth for like 5 days.
All right. Well, so did you have a serious meth problem there?
Oh, the drugs are off the hook. Delta Yard is known for the drugs, but I didn't mind it because like they weren't messing with us. Well, besides that one stabbing.
So, like in Sentinella, was there a serious drug problem compared to Don?
Yeah, there's drugs in both places. For sure there's drugs in both places, but it was controlled at Sentinella. You're not going to have dudes, you're probably going to have dudes getting high in the cell as opposed to getting high out on the yard, getting high out on the day room. Just like a free-for-all. It was a free-for-all.
So you think in Sentinella was kind of regulated by the inmates?
Oh yeah, for sure. And the staff.
Don't bring that shit to the yard, or?
Yeah, easily. And the staff.
So Donovan, because it's an SNY, one thing I like when I used to go to AdSeg and there'd be SNY guys in there, they say, "Oh, we don't got no rules."
It was a free-for-all, man. Man. And then, like, I think there was more dope at Donovan because of it's San Diego, so it's a larger city. You got like the FHM workers, dirty cops. Of course, there was dirty cops bringing stuff in, especially on that yard. One got busted, went to the feds.
So Donovan's also more closer to people's families. It's a city life and all that.
And Tijuana, TJ's right there.
And Sentinella's out in the middle of the desert, kind of.
Yeah.
So you're floating around Donovan. Wow, it's an SNY prison, so it's kind of hard for me to, I can't really relate to what kind of shit would go on there, but
this is you would see transgenders. I never saw a transgender. I saw one I saw one at Centinela, and it was in the whole AdSeg A5. And well, this is a whole prison full of them, a whole yard full of them. And it was like, it wasn't my element. It wasn't my cup of tea, man. I'm used to like structure. I'm used to gangbangers. And this was just, you know, dudes falling in love with, you know, transgenders, crying, getting their heart broken. And I'm just like, oh my, what is this? What is this?
So that's got to cause problems all its own.
Oh, just imagine like drama. Just imagine a drama relationship.
Grabbing each other over queers.
You would have, lovers triangles.
It's a prison punk, you know.
You'd have, lovers quarrels, triangles, affairs, rape allegations. It was just off the charts. You would have dudes like cutting their wrist over another like transgender, like I love you, I can't live without you, and I'm just like, nah.
Over a dude. So that was just on one of the yards there.
That was on every single yard except for that GP yard. That GP yard did get very interesting. When the big wigs hit that yard, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, so I heard they sent a couple guys down there.
They absolutely did.
But older cats.
Yeah, and there was a really, really bad attempted murder on 2 officers on that yard because of something along those lines. That and a cat
on the GP yard.
Yeah, man, we got some captain. It was a really bad administration that we went through, which led to me resigning. Ultimately, I just got fed up with unethicalness.
Did you resign out of Donovan?
I did. As a lieutenant.
So you were working at Donovan when they let guys out of the shoe up in the bay. Yeah,
it was 2015, and they hit the yards.
Because there's a story that I kind of want to ask you. That's why I asked you about like shot caller guys dropping kites and all that shit. Because I had a friend that was a clerk in Folsom back in the 80s.
Yeah,
in R&R, he was a clerk in R&R. And he told me a story that this lieutenant had a desk in R&R, and he always kept one of the drawers locked in that desk all the time. It was always locked because, inmates check shit like that,
Yeah.
That lieutenant split, and, and he went and checked, and that drawer was open. So he opened the drawer. I said, well, what's in it? And there was a bunch of files in there. And the names on the files were all gang members.
Yeah.
He pulled one out, a white guy, opened it up. I said, so what was it? He said, every kite that guy ever dropped, that guy had been dropping information kites, that lieutenant, all the way back when he was a CO. And that guy kept all them kites in a file, that guy's name. So, and I go, so what'd you do with that? And he goes, I put it back in there and I shut the drawer. And I go, you didn't tell nobody? He goes, no. I go, why not? He said, because if I would have went out the yard and said, hey, so-and-so's a rat, here's the file, they would have killed me.
Right.
Because there were several other guys that were hooked up that were also telling. So that's why I asked you, like, guys on the yard, when you're a sentinella or mainline yard that were supposed to be, all that, how does a guy walk around the yard doing illegal shit forever and get away with it?
So when you bring it up like that, yes, that was happening at Centinela, but they would drop kites without an author written, like, it would be an anonymous kite, and they would say basically all it was, man, was one competition knocking out the other competition.
Oh, were you ever on the goon squad?
I never was.
No. So what you're saying is like, so one dude's doing some illegal activity and he's got competition, so he's ratting on the other guy.
All the time. All the time. That's normal program.
And they didn't really have any prison gang members on that yard. So basically it's, hey, I got the keys.
I got the keys.
Shot caller.
I got the keys. So yeah, a lot of that. A lot of I'm from LA. You're from San Diego. I want to take over. And the other dudes were up in the bay. They didn't know no different.
They're dropping kites on each other.
Yeah, man, that was normal. You would go in there, you would find the dope, you would find the knives, the cell phones, and then when the weird thing now, I never saw this for a fact. I never saw it with my own eyes, but the inmates told me and the staff told me that our goon squad would give the inmate population cell phones
Yeah.
so that they can call when there's like a drug transaction or a hit about to happen.
I always thought about that, man, because things would happen.
Yeah.
Like somebody, let's just say somebody came up, they got a bunch of dope. Then the next thing you know, before they even get rolling, they're busted. Hey, man, I bet you, and we suspected who the rats were. And by then, I've been out of the dope game. I was clean, sober, and all that shit. But we said, hey, how'd they do it? By kite or by phone?
Yeah, by phone. But a lot of it by phone.
So they had cell phones that they could use to call their people and do all that shit, but they also could call the goon squad.
Yeah,
I knew it.
Yeah, well, for sure. For sure, man. And
but you get on the prison phone and call them too.
Because it was a lot of weird things. It was a lot of weird things. Like let's say I found a cell phone or something, right? And the inmate would be like, hey man, talk to so and so real quick. Talk to so and so on the goon squad.
Yeah.
He knows what's up. So I'll be like, this is confusing me. Why are they having these like little secrecy?
Wow.
And yeah, the goon squad guy would be like, hey, don't trip, I'm gonna take care of this, or I'm gonna make that RVR go away, or oh, he works for us, he's just weird stuff, man.
Yeah, that's
weird stuff.
And to me, it's usually the guy that's portraying himself like a shot caller that's probably doing it most of the time.
Yeah, they were not exempt. Like I said, it's a treacherous game, man. It's a treacherous game.
Yeah. There's never, man, when I was younger, I was in prison. It was different. But like I said, I'm a biker. I grew up around bikers. So back then they had guys they had motorcycle club guys in there when I went to prison, different motorcycle clubs. Back then everybody wanted to be a biker. Everyone grew long hair, beards, all that shit. Now everybody wants to be something else. They're all shaving their heads and whatever. But I rode bikes on the street. I grew up around that shit, so I gravitated towards that. And the dudes I hooked up with, they were solid. I'm friends with some of them now out here in the world. They got out, I'm out. They were serious guys. There was some loyalty there, But to me, the dope fiend prison genre mentality, there's no loyalty there.
Loyalty is far and few in between, man. Even on our side, the green side, and I've seen some grimy stuff, man. Some scandalous stuff. People selling their souls. People selling their souls for the next rank, for the next promotion.
So as a prison guard, I knew staff, man, that were cool. They'd be like, "Hey, get rid of that tattoo gun, man. I tattoo.
Yeah,
I was good at it. I was known as one of the best guys on the yard, all that bullshit. I tattoo now. So, but staff be like, hey, fucking, get rid of that tattoo machine. Don't let me find it, whatever, But then you had guys that would come in there and find, like one time I had a big pin with a little tiny piece of metal in there to open my radio, back in the day. And dude wanted to make a federal case out of it. The next thing you know, the guy's a sergeant and moving on up the rank. So, do those guys that do that, are they ratting on you and your friends too? Because they're trying to move up the ladder? Are they trying to ride herd on you guys, or how'd that work?
You know what? That's not even those. Like we call them canines. Those type of officers, the canines that are always trying to fight crime or crime fighters.
Yeah.
It usually wasn't even the crime fighters that when they promoted, they didn't do us dirty. It was the ones that pretended to be cool with us as officers, and they were probably just gaming us or using us, or they were probably rats back then, feeding the higher ups information. Then they promote and they just go nuts. I've seen people lose their minds, man. Lose their minds.
Ratting on you for?
Just
an extra piece of chicken or something. I mean, what?
like it can be. Let me see. It can be. Okay, you're not supposed to have cell phones inside the prison, right? Even staff members are not supposed to have a cell phone, right? It can be you pull out your cell phone, they go and they tell. That would be ratting. Uh, just weird stuff that's none of their business. They'll go and they'll tell, like, didn't even pertain to. Let's say two correctional officers got into it, a fight. You know, they happen, and one goes and just tells, or one of the assailant, one of the fighters goes and tells because he got beat up, and it's like, why would you do that? Now they both get in trouble.
Like, like, you know, the food in prison now is just terrible. It's the worst I've ever seen it. Some of it you can't even eat.
It's bland. Yeah, I ate some.
It's horrible, man. So, like, some staff at the end of the dinner meal, for instance, you know, there's always leftover food. You know, and some staff would be like, yeah, you know, go ahead and take some out. You're a good worker, you know. Well, other staff would be like, hey, they catch you with a bag of food coming out after everything's done. They want to write you up.
I was always like, I let a lot slide. And the reason why I let a lot slide is so if things got out of control, I can reel it back in. I can take something. It's kind of a give and take.
Yeah.
But yeah, those some dudes were straight by the book. Straight by the book.
You know, like when I was a cook in Tracy, you know, at the end of the day, I could always take out a few hamburgers or, you know, we had steak back then. Take a couple steaks out, whatever, you know.
You know what kind of suck when, like, we would be cool with letting you guys take like one bag full of food out of the chow hall if you guys were kitchen workers. But what would suck sometimes if you would get like a hard ass sergeant or a hard ass lieutenant or a captain, and they come and they're like, no, nothing comes out of my chow hall.
Yeah.
And you're like, man, you're messing up the program. Ain't nobody tripping right now.
Yeah, man, it all just goes in the trash anyway.
Right.
You know, it used to piss me off, man, because sometimes you know, they just come out of nowhere, and they after you let your guys out of the kitchen, they'll grab them down the way and throw them all on the wall, take all their shit, and then come back to you and go, hey, why'd you let them have this shit?
Yeah, it's just kind of dumb.
I hated that shit, man.
Always having to put out their fires. Yeah.
Yeah. So you know what? You know, you weren't in system yet, but you know, in Donovan we had they found a bullet in the fucking plaza.
Uh-huh.
At the same time, the same week, they found a bullet in the plaza in Solano.
Wow.
You know, they said they found a bullet. Right. So number one, if I smuggle a bullet into prison, I'm not just going to drop it out in the plaza.
Right.
So when that happened, they locked us down for days. They strip searched every fucking cell that came in because Donovan had just done away with a hobby there. They took all my art supplies. I went in my cell. Everything in my cell was in a big pile in the middle of the floor.
Man.
Got overtime up the ass out of that. And then later on, they found out it was a staff member in both places brought them bullets in and said they found them so they could get overtime.
That happened.
Donovan had made $185,000 in 1 year working overtime. So that the rumor is that staff manipulate the overtime. Like, I'm going to take a couple days, like I'm going to work. And then like tomorrow you work second watch and I'm third watch. So I'm going to take my day off and you'll work overtime. Then the next day I'll get to work your shift overtime so you could make more money that way. What's going on with the staff manipulating the overtime like that?
Yeah, when I was there, they were finding bullets on the Alpha Yard in the where you drop the 602 box or the medical box, and it was a weird caliber too, like 32 ACP.
Oh, like someone dropping a bullet in the 602 box.
So it was so weird because, like I said, Donovan was weird. There was a dirty staff member a CO that worked in the kitchen. So I don't know if it was that dirty CO that was bringing in dope and cell phones to the inmates and then dropping a bullet in the box so we can search it and get everything back, and he could just make more money. I don't know what was going on.
Well, what was going on in Solano?
Was it?
Yeah,